So here's a story. I used to work at a bakery and I had a friend who worked in the meat section. Ironic enough, he was a passionate omnivore. But we were very in close proximity and he was a really cool guy. So I wanted to get to know him, to become friends because he was a cool guy. And this is right around the time that I had declared to myself, okay, I am now vegan. I am no longer vegetarian. No more cheese, no more donuts. This is it. And one of the things I had heard online was, don't be aggressive with people, because you're just going to make people uncomfortable and things like that. And that's just a moral code I stand by. I don't want to make anybody uncomfortable in everyday conversation. I think everyone agrees to that to a point. So basically, when I approached him and we became friends, I didn't mention veganism at all. I was really nice to him, and we hit it off right away. We talked about video games, about sports, whatever. So again, we worked almost every single night, so we would see each other every day, and eventually it got out that I'm a vegan. And I could have played it a couple ways, but I decided that to just be 100% humble, and go along with every single joke and make fun of myself, make fun of the lifestyle, and just basically surrender my potential arrogance. I'll keep it at that. I told myself, I don't want this thing to be a I don't want this part of my life to be what's going to ruin our friendship, and I don't want to give veganism a bad name. I don't want any tension here at all. Like, I'm gonna just give up the fact that, yeah, maybe if I don't try, he's not gonna be vegan in the future. But in that moment, I didn't care. I'm just like, I'm just gonna make sure we're still friends after this and that this isn't gonna interrupt us. And it went amazing. We were still friends. We both joked about it. I love making jokes about vegans. Vegan jokes are hilarious, dude. So we were able to get along and we were able to, laugh and still have a good time and still enjoy each other's company. So the next time we saw each other, it wasn't like, oh, it's Glenn the vegan. It's just, oh, it's Glenn. And he also happens to be vegan. Oh, it's that guy. He just so happens to be a passionate omnivore. So what this led to, me starting off on such a good foot, building the basis to our friendship, what it led to was genuine discussion. It wasn't me trying to be right or him trying to be right and us going back and forth between beliefs. He knew where I stood and I knew where he stood. So we both had our positions and we respectfully acknowledged that neither of us were probably moving our position. So with that, off our chest, without trying to have him prove a point, we were just able to enjoy the conversation and the intellectual discussion, because it was coming from a higher intellect. It wasn't just base conversation anymore. We were talking about serious ethics. We were talking about real life. We were talking about real slaughterhouses. And, his perspective was actually very interesting to me. Yeah, of course we disagreed, on, the whole eating animals and killing animals, but his perspective was really interesting to me, and I was genuinely interested in what he had to say. I genuinely wanted to hear what he had to say, what his perspective was, why he thought the way he did. And what it came down to was I found out that he used to hunt, he used to hunt a lot, and that he actually used to partake in slaughterhouses. Like, not that he worked there, but he used to live near a local one where you could physically pick out your pig, and then you could actually slice the pig's throat if you choose. You don't have to, you can let the guy do it. But he says, yeah, I've done it before, and it's pretty interesting, like, that's just a part of life. That's just how I grew up, and it was cool. And he even told me, he's like, yeah, dude, if you just slit the throat pretty quick, there's no blood rushing to the brain, so they're not really in pain. And I'm like, that's an interesting perspective. Of course, I still don't agree, you don't have to kill the pig, but it was still a cool thought. And I'm like, that's pretty cool, dude. That's very, very nice that you actually know this and you acknowledge that, yeah, it may be uncomfortable at first, but after a while, it's fine. Cool, whatever. So anyways, point is, after a few weeks, because we would still have these discussions, we would still talk back and forth. He's like, okay, well, why do you think this? Well, what about this? What if you had to do this? Just the general vegan omnivore back and forth, and I would always answer genuinely, and I would always make jokes with him, and he would always make jokes with me, and I would always ask him, oh yeah, well, how you feel about this? Why did you do this? Okay, so this is the basis. This is where it starts. And now that we're so comfortable with each other, now that we're just genuine friends and our diets have nothing to do, it's not clashing at all, because I've given us a platform and we've kept it. You know, like, hey dude, we're friends and I don't want veganism to get in the way of that. So he was so comfortable around me, I was so comfortable around him, that one day, out of the blue, I didn't even mention it, I never pushed anything. I used to let him sample my foods. I used to bring him some food every now and then, and he's like, oh yeah, it's okay, whatever. But out of nowhere, out of the blue, one day he comes up to me, he's like, Glenn, Tamron, I'm trying to lose weight. You know, I've been putting on some pounds, I'm not as active as I used to be. I wanna shed some belly fat. You know, what are some filling vegetarian meals that I can try? And I'm just like, whoa, dude, do you want to try this? Like, really? Like, that's actually really cool, and I'm actually honored and very glad that you came to me for help, because I'm a little more experienced in this, and it was just such a refreshing moment, to have this guy who's a passionate omnivore, who's grown up within slaughterhouses and understands how nature works, and understands that, yeah, it can be brutal, but that's just what we do. We're animals too, and we need to eat. And I'm going to eat that pig. This passionate omnivore coming to me for vegetarian meals, for vegetarian ideas, and he even acknowledging that, yeah, I should cut down on meat if I want to lose weight. And it was actually surreal, dude. It was just a beautiful moment. And the lesson here is that, you're not always going to change somebody up front. Veganism is a tough pill to swallow. It's not something that happens overnight. Maybe for some people, if you watch slaughterhouse footage, you can change overnight. But for this guy, he's grown up hunting. He's grown up eating meat. He used to be a lifter, so he would eat a lot of meat. And to come to me and he's like, hey, I want to give this a shot. Let's see what it's all about. And I know the health benefits are there. It's truly magnificent. It's truly amazing how much, like, a little bit of compassion can go, and a little bit of understanding, rather than coming from this perspective of, we're right, we have the moral high ground, and this is why you should change. Slaughterhouses are disgusting, and if you support them, you're disgusting. Or meat is gonna clog your arteries, so stop eating it, rather than coming from that perspective of, more high ground, you really need to take some time to get to know people, to understand their position, and empathize with them. Really look in them and see what you used to be. Because not all of us are born vegan. The 99% of us, I can assure you, were not born vegan. And we had to make that mental switch. And it didn't always happen right away. It's usually a process. So you need to give people that process. You need to let them come to it, rather than just shoving them in their face, because their defense mechanisms are always kicked into high drive, especially if you don't know the person. Even the people your loved ones that you've known forever, when you shove this new topic in their face, their defense mechanisms kick in. Oh, but what about protein? Oh, but we've been doing this for thousands of years. There's no point, it's just a preference. You need to give people that space and that time to really think about the lifestyle, and give them time to respect you as a person, to respect that, what you're doing is actually difficult, or, noble, or, hey, this guy is actually kind of smart, maybe he's onto something. Let me hear his side of the story, So, moral of the story, give people a chance. Let them express themselves. Get to know them. Genuinely understand their perspective. And emphasize And this really is where we can make change on a local level, on a very local level. You know, I know there's a lot of activism that can be done over the internet. There's Freely with her mainstream approach, Abel Ciel with his analytical, ethical, and logical political approach. But on the local level, the people we speak to every day, it really is important, when you watch how you go about it, when you're cautious and not to put too much pressure on people to change. Because nobody wants to know that they're wrong. Nobody wants to be told that they're wrong. But if they can find it within themselves, if their own conscience can say, hey, maybe I should change, then that's where we can see, the real compassion come from people and have their intellect expand, So I really truly believe in passive local activism. Getting the idea in people's heads and then slowly buttering them up to at least lend an ear to what you have to say, to what the lifestyle is about, what it is. Even if it means throwing your pride away, throwing even your ethics away for the sake of a genuine conversation, for the sake of really touching someone's heart.